Hi everyone, welcome to Nareen's Life with MS. I am Nareen, and this is again a Soulful Saturday and episode 4. And considering we're talking about this whole U turn, aspect, um, changing the way we perceive over this entire week essentially, or at least from Tuesday. I wanted to continue on that tangent with Soulful Saturday and talk about pretty much change, right? How much, when we're saying we're embracing change, when we're saying we're going out of a comfort zone, or even doing anything that is different from who we are, right? What our personalities are. um, how do we pretty much accept it, and what do we do in terms of accepting it? So the way I've looked at it, and this is me experiencing change on a variety of levels, right? Personal, professional, moving from place to place, country to country, school to school, um, house to house, even, um, you know, even to the point of trying, promising myself I'd get a new haircut each time I go to a barber shop. uh, how much do we actually accept this change, and how much and what do we do about it, right? Because it's one thing to tell people that embrace the change, go outside your comfort zone. But there's always, one thing that I found is, there are two questions that kind of are part of the answer of, you deciding or you agreeing to change. The first is, what are you changing? And the second is, how are you changing it? So and when I think about this, and I do have a story in regards to this, which might seem very very menial. I mean, it's so small that you might think that I'm turning this very small thing into a very big issue, but it's not really an issue. It's something that I probably learned about myself, and this was just maybe in the past few days. So just a little bit of backstory. So I usually leave all of the curtains in my room open, and that is just to let a little bit of light in. I am very unnerved by having a completely dark room. I need to have a little bit of light to be able to navigate the room when, if I wake up in the night and I have to go to the washroom and everything. So I generally prefer my room to be a little brighter than the norm. Now, yesterday, it just so happened that, one side of my room, so both sides of my room have curtains, and one side was actually, the curtains were closed, which meant that there was no light coming in. And what that pretty much meant, considering this is the south window and this one's the north, um, there would be less light coming into the room. The room would be a little darker in the morning. So I didn't know how that would have impacted my sleep, and but I just decided to give it a try, just because I wanted to know what difference it would make. And the difference was, I don't want to say it's pretty stark, because I've just had this experience for one night, and sure, there were previous times, but this was the one time where I was actually paying attention to this change. I had a much more restful sleep regard, and I don't think I slept for a lot longer. I think maybe I slept for 15 to 20 minutes longer. I think my internal you know my internal sense of anxiety just woke me up, since I had to go to physiotherapy in the morning. But I did feel like I had a much more restful night. Now, does this mean A, that I'm going to completely change and I'm going to close all of the curtains? That is one question. B, how am I going to make this change or institute this change if I find that it is, an improvement over, how I sleep at night? So, when I'm looking at this entire thing, the first question, whether I would close all of the curtains, well, the answer is is definitely a no on that side, and there are a couple of reasons. A, a couple of windows on both sides are open to allow for a breeze to allow for a little bit of air movement through my room. So usually I wouldn't want my curtains, which are relatively heavy, to actually cover any of the airflow in this room. So at least a little bit of my room will always remain open to the light coming from the outside. And there are street lights outside, so my room generally does remain a little bit lit at night as a result of that. So yeah, I think the first one is, yeah, it's not going to completely close off. The second question, which is I think the more difficult question to ask, and I think for you as well, it will be a lot more difficult question to ask, is how would you institute this change? How would you make sure that, whether this change is, how much of your life are you changing as a result of, you know trying to make this change happen? So this one does give me a little pause, because I do know that, I do like being the early bird. I do like waking up very, very early in the morning, and I know that this might actually hamper that whole idea of waking up early in the morning. And I know fully, I have full realization that I am recording this video, and it is, I think, 12:40 or 12:45, 12:46 at night. So I do know that this is going to be probably not a full change. Maybe I will start doing this during the weekends, so that I can maybe keep both sides active of getting the more restful sleep alongside waking up a little earlier in the morning. And so that is, one change that I'm experiencing. And sure, this is a very small change, but it does give, a much bigger impact to generally my health. And as this is a channel regarding MS awareness, my life with MS especially, and me generally talking to an audience that maybe either has MS, knows someone with MS, or knows someone with any other autoimmune condition, or is facing certain other issues that, while they might not be categorized as autoimmune, will definitely be lifestyle changing or lifestyle impacting. um, I would love to get your insights and your inputs on what kind of changes you see, and what kind of changes, however small they are, how you pretty much tackle embracing that change. Or even if you are making the change and you realize that you don't like it, how do you go back to what your norm is? So do share your insights, because I think this is going to be something that this is going to be a topic that we are going to revisit, um, maybe more times over the course of, however long this channel lasts. And yeah, so I do hope that you get the chance to really understand, what has been a recent change in your life. How have you embraced it? What have you done to change it? And how have you really accepted this change that has happened? Because I think the how question becomes the biggest, it becomes the big um, the big change that you are making, right? I mean, it's pretty much the one part that is impacting your day-to-day life. So thank you so much for listening in. Again, this has been Nareen's Life with MS. I am Nareen, and you have a great Saturday, and I hope you have a great weekend as well. Thank you.